So what you saw was that quiet optimism that appeared to be spreading during the Chancellor's speech really start seeping away. And I think what's been happening is that there's been a much deeper dig into the government finances and those forecasts from the Office for Budget Responsibility, indicating that not only will growth undershoot previous forecasts over a 4-year period, but also inflation is likely to edge up because of all this extra spending. Now, it's not just, though, I think, these inflation expectations that are leading to these movements that we've seen, this kind of spike in bond yields, the gilt yields that we saw yesterday in particular. It's also this concern about just where all this extra investment spending will go and just how responsible the government will be in using that money. So the risk premium has returned to some extent on the UK. Look, it isn't anything like we saw with the Trustonomics mini budget when that spike really was high after those unfunded tax cuts came in. It's just this extra wariness that, this is a big tax, this is a big spending budget. Will the government use prudence in executing its strategy? And I think that's what bond investors want to see.
There's so much going on at the moment, and these rumblings in debt markets coming at a time when the focus is really on the geopolitics. So it's around a US election, a big focus on China as well. Do you think once we get through the election, we might see further movement in bond markets? Because, let's face it, when it comes to the US, debt is also expected to grow, and the pledges of both candidates also looks like it's going to have ramifications for debt markets. So are we just on the cusp of a new era where the bond vigilantes get even more active again?
But I certainly think they are circling, and there is this increased wariness, particularly with the US election so close. All of the rhetoric that we've heard on the campaign trail, particularly from President Trump, talking about all these extra tariffs that he wants to slap on, which could really end up being very inflationary indeed. And I think there's a close eye on what that could mean. But also, as you say, the various promises from the Kamala camp as well, the Harris camp. I do think, yes, there is this real concern that simply governments are building up far too much debt. There isn't enough fiscal discipline. Interestingly, though, the International Monetary Fund did actually welcome what has happened in the UK in terms of this real determination and pledge not to increase day-to-day spending, but actually to ring-fence that extra borrowing for investment in infrastructure and the National Wealth Fund creation, for example. However, that endorsement didn't really seem to move the dial much.